Jurassic Park Survival is a new game that's supposed to be coming out for PlayStation 5, Xbox, and PC. The game is set immediately after the events of the 1993 film, and while we haven't had any official updates on it in a while, one of the developers for the game recently sat down and explained a few things going on behind the scenes. And this gives us a bit of an idea over what we can expect to see from the game, or at the very least, why it's taking so long to get any new information or an official release date. What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. Now, for today's video, I wanted to talk about some new information involving Jurassic Park Survival and how it looks like Universal is more or less working super close with Saber on this project. A developer on the game had this to say about the overall process of making Jurassic Park Survival and what it's been like to develop the game versus something like a brand new movie. Shout out to Swerve for the content, by the way, that we're going to be going over in this video.
As far as like the work that I'm doing isn't in a vacuum, you know, I'll do a bunch of work and then the things that I do will have to be approved and sort of like signed off on by other vested parties. But I think the big difference is that in this case where you're working on IPs, some of those approvals are coming from, I don't want to say outside the industry, because there is a lot of overlap, especially in like production and, you know, using Unreal and the volume and stuff, you know, Mandalorian. Some of the stakeholders are, you know, people from a different industry who maybe don't understand exactly how things on our side work, which is fair, just like I don't understand a lot of the stuff that happens on the movie production side of it. But yeah, so it's similar in that sense that like, yeah, I mean, I have to answer to and sort of cater to what other people's expectations are for it. It's a little bit different because there are other factors, you know, you have to be a lot more careful, I think, with like brand voice and what you can or can't say, you know, making sure that you're hitting correct terminology for things that are in the IP universe, not talking about things that like in a lot of IPs, there are things that, you know, say the audience refers to as one thing, but canonically it's not. Like the people in universe would never say or refer to a thing that way. And so you got to make sure that you're hitting the language.
So look, guys, immediately when I heard this info, the very first thing that popped into my mind was Trespasser, which for those of you who don't know, had to jump through a lot of hoops just to get released in late 1998, which was already a full year after The Lost World came out, the movie in which the game was supposed to be a sort of tie-in to. Now, when it comes to Jurassic Park Survival, I actually don't think that this is anywhere near that kind of trouble or that kind of production at all, because if you look back on Trespasser, pretty much everything that game was doing was revolutionary for the time. So Jurassic Park Survival is basically just building off of what's already been established instead of, you know, trying to be a trailblazing entry for gaming like Trespasser. That being said, I will say that the whole movie company not understanding how a game company does things reeks of old school issues that Trespasser ran into. Speaking of an overlap when it comes to Jurassic Park Survival's movie and video game adaptations, you know, Trespasser and Lost World are kind of inextricably linked together with what they were supposed to be, which is kind of like key supports for one another. So if Jurassic Park Survival is supposed to be the same thing for Jurassic World Rebirth, or at the very least just like boosting it up for hype, well, there could be reasons that the movie company is stepping in. And maybe they're just trying to make sure that everything is canonical and doesn't overlap or make something not work. I wanted to go over some of the ideas that it looks like we can expect to be major set pieces for this new game. So for starters, there's the river raft sequence, which was supposed to be in the very first Jurassic Park movie. Only this time, it looks like it's going to be in survival and featuring the velociraptors instead of the T-Rex. I'm sure that's going to be a pretty major part of the game, and for some reason, it's reminding me of Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine, although I really think the mechanics are going to be way different in the survival game. Next up would be several story elements that feel like they're being lifted from the 2011 Telltale game. We've got a brand new pack of raptors just like that title. We've got some new stuff that looks like it's going to center around evading carnivorous animals and similar indoor areas like the Telltale game. And we can even see that the T-Rex is being hyped up as this sort of big bad presence on the island, which was always going to be the fact if you ask me. Now look, if Jurassic Park Survival is kind of trying to tie in nicely with the new movie, part of me wonders if Universal is telling Saber, look, you can't can reference these things, but you can't reference these other things over here. Not necessarily because they don't know what they're doing, but maybe they do want to make sure that nothing messes up with the film continuity that they are trying to do in this new film. So kind of like trying to avoid the stuff that Trespasser did that unfortunately rendered it incapable of being a full-on part of the canon with contradictions to the movies, if you know what I mean. Trespasser is a really cool game. I will honestly always defend it, but I wish it didn't step on the toes of Jurassic Park and the Lost World when it comes to events in the timeline, because it just means that it didn't happen like officially the way Trespasser says it did. But then again, that game is always up for a remaster. Night Dive Studios apparently has the source code. Please make it happen. Now, when it comes to the release date for this game, Jurassic Park Survival, look guys, there's been no official news, but I just want to say this. Do you want the game to be unfinished when it comes out like Trespasser, or would you rather it take its sweet time and turn out the best way it possibly can? I know that Universal and Amblin more than likely will want it to release around the same time as Jurassic World Rebirth. It's kind of common sense if you know what I mean, but honestly, that new movie, whether we want to accept it or not, was most definitely rushed when it came down to filming everything. I mean, if you really think about it, we went from not having any information on a new Jurassic Park movie at all to having a full-on Gareth Edwards sequel get made with David Koepp's return like out of nowhere. That happened, guys, and while I will admit I actually think it's going to be way better than Jurassic World Dominion, even though that movie was given a whole extra year to be worked on, video games are way different. A video game can look nice and still play terribly, if you know what I mean. And just by going off of Jurassic Park Trespasser, I personally think this game needs to be given as much breathing room to be great as it possibly can be. So when it comes down to Jurassic Park Survival's release date, my best guess is that it could release sometime this year around October or December, if I'm being generous. That way it kind of shows up right after Rebirth to give some time for the movie to breathe. Or it could come out in 2026, but I guess it all depends on what Universal's plans are to begin with. The crazy thing about Jurassic Park is that it's one of the biggest franchises from the last 30 years, and yet for some reason, we don't really have a solid presence when it comes to rolling out new stuff for the audience. The people try to copy what Marvel does with its big charts and auditoriums, or what Disney does with Star Wars, and look, that's just not Jurassic Park. Remember guys, this brand was built off of a massive tie-in ride at a theme park, which is literally what Jurassic Park is. It's a theme park. I mean, I can't believe we don't get stuff like Hammond or at least Claire telling us what's coming out soon with a tongue-in-cheek, buy this new product if you're up for it and make sure you don't get eaten like the old days did. Go back and look at those Jurassic Park the Ride commercials on TV. They were awesome. Why can't we get stuff like that to roll out this new material? I don't know. But anyways, guys, those are my opinions and thoughts on this new stuff that's come out for Jurassic Park Survival. Personally, late 2025, maybe early 2026 is when we can expect the game. I do think that they're trying to make sure they don't overlap with Rebirth and make sure that the game does come out to actually support the new movie, but also not step on anything in the canon's toes. And I just want to say they can take their time with it. I really don't want this to turn out like Trespasser and be a massive flop, because that game had a ton of potential, and I think this game, if done right, we could get some really cool stuff in the future. But hey, whatever your own thoughts and opinions happen to be on the subject matter, I'd love to hear all about them in the comments down below. Now, before I go, I want to thank everyone that's helped me build my channel over the years. I'd also like to thank every one of you guys who've watched my stuff. You've all been extremely cool to me. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like and hope that you'll consider subscribing. God bless you all. Christ is King. See you guys in the next video. And as always, take it easy.